Turning our attention now to the ASX, here's Matt Birney and Bulls and Bears with the latest public company views and interviews.
Welcome to Bulls and Bears, brought to you today by Ardea Resources, ASX code ARL. I'm Matt Birney, and I'm joined now by the Managing Director of Ardea Resources, Andrew Penkethman. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Matt.
Okay, so Ardea has been quietly building the nickel laterite resource at its Kalgoorlie Nickel Project between Kalgoorlie and Menzies into one of the largest known accumulations of nickel on the planet. The preliminary financial forecasts for the project are biblical in scale, and the initial mine life is predicted to run into multi-decades. Two massive Japanese companies recently agreed to farm into the project by spending the same sort of money on a definitive feasibility study that some mining companies spend on an entire mine. Okay, Andrew, we'll get into that in a minute, but first of all, let's talk about your Goongarrie Hub portion of your Kalgoorlie Nickel Project, because that's the part that's subject to this new deal with the Japanese. What's the reserve at that project?
The ore reserve is 1.3 million tonnes that contain nickel and approximately 99,000 tonnes that contain cobalt.
How much is a tonne of cobalt and nickel going for these days?
Currently, the nickel price is about US $19,000 a tonne and the cobalt price about $28,000 a tonne.
And how much can you produce a tonne of nickel for at this project after selling off the cobalt?
Based on our 2023 PFS, we defined C1 operating costs of $5,763 per tonne of nickel produced, also allowing for the cobalt byproduct credit.
Okay, so who are these Japanese companies that are agreed to partner with you to develop Goongarrie Hub, and how big are they?
They're industry giants, so we'll start with Sumitomo Metal Mining, who are world leaders in mining and processing, particularly with copper and nickel laterite projects. They currently own and operate two nickel laterite mines in the Philippines. And Mitsubishi Corporation, I'm sure all of your listeners are familiar with the brand, and they're a global giant with a current market capitalisation of about $94 billion US.
Now, as I understand it, this will be a 50-50 JV, Ardea on one side and the two Japanese companies on the other. Who gets what and who pays for what?
So the Japanese consortium will fully fund our definitive feasibility study at a cost of $98.5 million, and then we will work together to secure project development capital. Once the final investment decision's made and the debt is secured, the Japanese consortium will own 50% of Kalgoorlie Nickel Proprietary Limited, and Ardea will retain the other 50%.
What's the predicted annual profit for this project? Let's go with EBITDA. And what's the life of mine and the net present value?
So the EBITDA based on last year's PFS is $800 million per annum. The NPV is just under $5 billion Australian. The IRR is 23%, and the life of mine is in excess of 40 years. So this is a globally significant strategic asset.
Andrew Penkethman from Ardea Resources. Thanks for joining me on Bulls and Bears. And remember, we're only here to give you information, not advice, which you should, of course, seek independently. I'm Matt Birney, and this is Bulls and Bears.
For more public company interviews, go to the Money page on the 6PR, 2GB, 3AW and 4BC websites and click the Public Companies tab.